Welcome back to the Video Store Junkies, a podcast about movies and the experience of watching them. I'm Zachary Edgerton, and it's been a little while since we did one of these long-form episodes, which is probably to be expected. What started as a pandemic podcast was predictably interrupted by most of us getting back to some semblance of normal life. But much like the villain we'll be talking about shortly, this podcast just won't stay dead. So tonight we're resurrecting our series for the spookiest of months, where we rank all the entries in a long-running horror franchise. 2 years ago, we covered all the Halloween films, and last year we discussed A Nightmare on Elm Street. So of course we're rounding out the big three this year by talking about the other most important horror series of the 80s and 90s. That's right, tonight we'll be talking about the Leprechaun franchise. No, I'm just kidding. Today we're talking about the Friday the 13th series, which is appropriate because if you are listening to this first episode on the day that it drops, you can join us in celebrating an actual Friday the 13th. That's right. It's almost as if we've planned it that way. So before we begin, let's go around the room and introduce you to all of the camp counselors here at Camp Video Store Junkies and get an idea of what their background and relationship is with this series. So let's start with the head counselor. Renee, who are you and what's your well let's face it, you're the adult in the room, so you get to be head counselor by default.
Fair enough.
Who are you and what's your background with this franchise?
Oh boy. My name is Renee St. Aubin, and this movie has just been around in my life for as long as I can remember. I don't think I ever remembered watching it for the first time. It was just always there. And I know that you're going to hear this episode and you're going to think, what? But I love this series.
Okay, great. Well, you'll you'll probably balance some of us out.
Yeah.
Then. I like it. Okay, well, let's go to the Joker, the class clown of Camp Video Store Junkies. Paul, who are you?
Okay, I'm Paul Cardullo, and so with this series, I mean, even though I was old enough to have seen them all in the theater, I didn't. In fact, I only saw two in the theater. I saw part 3 in 3D. My brother took me for my birthday, and talk about travesties. Or tragedies, I guess. Right during the most famous sequence, the spear gun shot, the bulb went out on the camera.
Oh no!
And on the projector, and we're all screaming, "No, no!" You could hear the music. No! We knew it was coming, and they didn't. They fixed it, but didn't run it back. So unfortunately, I never got to experience that in full glorious 3D.
Oh no!
But then, then when Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter came out. My friends and I went and saw it. Yay! And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I guess a couple years later, I probably caught on videotape. I caught the first one and the second one. But I was like, I never went and saw back the rest of them till probably about a year ago that I was like, I should start watching these. And this is before we had talked about doing this one as a series. And I'm like, what the hell? Or maybe we did. I don't remember. It's all that crack I've been smoking. Oh, did I say that loud? Anyway, so I just kind of started watching them, and I think I got about halfway through, and I said, I can't do this. Until we started to do this again, and I'm like, okay, and dove back in. So that's my long sorted story with Friday the 13th.
Great. And luckily for you, we don't drug test here at Camp Video Store Junkies. So no, actually, we do drug test. If you're not on anything, we throw you out. And last but not least, let's go to the Tommy Jarvis of the camp. Bill, who are you? And tell us about how much you love this series.
See, I thought for sure you were going to say, and now we go to the crotchety old man who warns you not to go there, but you ignore him at your peril. But I'll take Tommy
You would
Jarvis.
be a good harbinger.
I would be a good harbinger. I told you not to. Yeah. Including all you guys making fun of me while I'm on the phone. Well, I saw this opening night, Friday the 13th, the original opening night. There was no way I was not going to see it because I was a big fan of Fangoria, and they had all of the highlights just splattered right there on the screen. Some of which we didn't get to see a whole lot of in the movie because the censors were rearing their ugly heads. I was a huge fan of Tom Savini already. And so I saw it there and just about jumped out of my skin at the shock ending. Should have seen it coming, did not. And I've been a fan. I was a fan. And I was a fan for the next Okay. I wasn't a fan. We'll get to what I'm a fan of. But I've seen,
Yeah.
I think, the ones that were worth seeing I saw at the theater. That's not a whole lot. There's 12 films.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot that I saw, with the fullness of time. Just, there was nothing better on. And what's my relationship with it? I still maintain that this is a far more rewarding series than the Halloween franchise. Because the Halloween franchise started out with one of the greatest horror movies of all time and then cratered immediately, which was almost bound to happen, but they really didn't even try. Whereas this one started out at a kind of level of okay mediocrity and maintained it with a few dips into, geez, you're not even trying. But for the most part, this one, you're not going to be super disappointed in any entry, because why would you be? What are your expectations for a Friday the 13th movie? They're almost bound to be met.
It's interesting that you say that, because some of these still don't reach my low bar.
There is one,
we'll
and we'll get to it, that has a great title that promises all kinds of goodness and does not deliver. So
yeah. But by the way, sorry, Bill. If you're moving around in your chair, I think we hear it really loudly.
No, that's Shauna trying to de-ice age one of our freezers here, so she can put all the cake pucks. She'll be done in just a moment. But she's okay.
Never mind.
She's apologizing.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right, hon.
If it's Shauna, no. If it's Shauna,
Yeah, if it's Shauna, they say
It's
you're
fine,
allowed to
it's
do anything.
her, yeah.
If it's me,
if it's you, shut the fuck
rubbing
up.
my beard
But-
against
Yeah.
the microphone, then it's another thing.
Yeah. Okay. So, and as I mentioned, I'm Zachary Edgerton, and I watched all of these movies, or all the movies that were out. I think I've mentioned this many times before, but as a kid, I was not allowed to watch horror movies. So, like in middle school, elementary school, all the kids were talking about Jason, and I was aware of this, but this franchise, I hadn't seen any of them. And then in my like mid-teens, I think it was maybe 15 when I was allowed to start renting these. So I watched all of them. And kind of interesting what I remembered and what I kind of forgot about the series, because I don't think I've really gone back and watched any of them since. I did watch 3 of these in the theaters, the 3 that came out in the 2000s, because I was working at a theater for that decade. So yeah, I have kind of an interesting relationship going back and rewatching these and kind of rediscovering the ones that work and the ones that don't work as an adult. Well, I think we can move on and get into the meat of our conversation. We're going to ping pong just a little bit, because we are going to go from worst to best. But we're actually going to start the conversation with the best installment, because I think it helps us kind of kick off the conversation about this series.
Yeah.
And B, I don't think there's a huge surprise, or maybe there is. I don't know, because we didn't all have this as our number one, but it did average out to the number one. So much like our, I think we did this on our Halloween episode, we're going to start out with our number one film in the Friday the 13th franchise, which is, believe it or not, Friday the 13th. That's right. The 2009 remake was. No. So yeah, number one. This was the number one or number two choice for everyone. This is, of course, the original 1980 film. So this one. So yeah, I just want to kick off the conversation and just talk about the franchise a little bit, kind of framed in reference to this film. Quick facts that I'm just going to give about every movie. So this movie came out on May 9th, 1980. Was directed by Sean S. Cunningham and written by Victor Miller. Super cheap movie. Well, I guess adjusting for inflation, it was moderately cheap, but it cost all these box office numbers are from thenumbers.com, so blame them if you think something's wrong. But the budget was $550 million, and it made $39.7 million at the box office. So
Wait, what?
Hugely successful film. It was the 15th most top-grossing film of the year, and so the way that I want to start this conversation off, and Bill, I'm actually going to let you lead here, because you mentioned you saw this one opening night, and so I think my big question with this movie, and obviously the reason the fact that this movie made a shitload of money is why we immediately got another one like a year later. But why was this movie specifically such a massive hit when it came out?
In large part, it was because there was such a backlash to it. Siskel and Ebert did a review, and they didn't just give it a bad review. I would expect them to give it a bad review. It's certainly not their kind of film. They gave it one of the worst reviews anything can have. As I recall, and maybe this is in my imagination, but as I recall, Gene Siskel essentially said, could everyone go get a pencil and a piece of paper? And he waited a little bit, and then it's like, here's the address I want you to write your letters of complaint to.
Oh, wow.
They went after Betsy Palmer. Why would a good actress be in this filth? This was not just a bad film. This was a representation of all that was wrong with society and film and those kids today. And it was a cynical money, grab for money as opposed to, the art that most Hollywood films are. I mean, they hated this movie. Absolutely, absolutely hated it. And, you're a kid and you're looking at these two grown-ups telling you can't go see something. You were there. Now, I don't remember if I saw the review before I saw the movie, because I saw the movie pretty early on. And things were released differently back then. I saw it opening night. It may not necessarily have been opening weekend, because that's not how things were released back then. They kind of would go around the country and pick up steam. But this, man, the crowd was packed. It had a great ad, a trailer. And it just hit the graininess of it, the cheapness of it. Horror looks good when it's cheap. Fantasy looks like pants. Science fiction, unless it's dystopian, looks terrible. But cheap horror actually looks better than slick horror. One reason why the remakes of these 80s films usually underperform. The first kill, and we were in for the ride. I mean, I think people knew what to expect. I certainly knew what to expect because I read Fangoria. I don't know about the rest of the crowd. When that first woman is killed in broad daylight with a throat slit effect that is still one of the best throat slit effects, where, you're used to watching films where they cut away. Or, something, it's obvious. And this is all like watching a magician showing you how the trick is done, and it's still, you can't figure out how it's done. It was so good. Savini really, really stretched the boundaries of what we had seen before. And then, of course, it had an ending that every single person was talking about on Monday when we went back to school. Everyone. People who either saw the movie or had heard about it from someone else, everyone was just raving about it. You had to go see this. You had to. I don't know if there was anyone in high school who didn't go see it. The kid, maybe, all right, that one loser kid who wasn't allowed to see horror movies until he was 15, but he had no friends and sat alone at the, lunchroom table, so whatever.
Hey, I was only 12, so be nice to me.
Okay. Yeah, and it was my choice for second, but it's definitely up there. Now, is it a great movie? No. Is it a great popcorn horror movie? Yes. It does what it was meant to do. And yes, Gene and Roger, up in heaven or hell or wherever you are, yeah, it was a cheap, cynical money grab. Hello. It's an exploitation horror movie. It did what it was supposed to do. It showed us some things we hadn't seen before. Was it the start of a genre, the slasher genre, which is among my least favorite in horror? Yes, I have zero love for slasher movies. I have some slasher movies I love, but it's because they bring something else to the party. Like a Mario Bava film or a Dario Argento film. Yeah, those are great. People saw this and it's like, wow, we can make a cheap movie and make a lot of money, and they did. I mean, it's hard to imagine just how many carbon copies came out, and most of them were completely unrewarding, just no style at all. I wouldn't say this is a movie that just knocks you out of the park with its direction or anything, but it's competently made. It does what it's supposed to do. It really is like what it is, a campfire story. If any of you ever went to summer camp, this is the sort of nonsense that you'd be talking about around the campfire.
You were talking about style. I think part of it was, at least with this one, to me, it is actually pretty atmospheric. I think for this one, and I think because it's the killer is, seeing from the killer's point of view a lot of the times. I don't know. It just has a bit more atmosphere to me than so it does. I think have a little bit more style. At least for me, that's kind of why I ranked it, at the top myself.
Yeah,
because it's also one I could watch again.
Right. It definitely has style compared to some of the others. And again, it's very twisty at the ending. The killer is not who you expect. Although as soon as she shows up, come on, duh. You can win a lot of trivia points too if you ever go to Halloween night at trivia contests like who was the killer in Friday the 13th in the original film, and everybody puts Jason was, and you like ha ha, no he wasn't.
No, everyone knows that now though because of
right.
Scream.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. That's right.
Right.
Renee, you had this at your tippy top. What are your thoughts on the enduring attraction of this film?
I think there's just something that's sort of simple about it. They're not really trying too hard in any particular area.
You're not wrong, except for Tom Savini.
Yeah.
No. I mean, the story. Like, they're not trying to overcomplicate things with some bullshit. Like, I have telepathy story. We get kills really quickly. It's just they kill teenagers. I mean, what's not to like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I did have
and a cute dog.
This movie has the 3 B's of great cinema, and that is blood, boobs, and bacon.
Yes.
Yeah, it ticks all three boxes for me. So I had this as number 11. It's funny though, like ranking these movies, because like I had this I had this as number 2. I give it 11 points, but even then I had some thing like the notes I took were actually not super favorable, because I really do think that watching this as a modern audience member, like it actually does feel like at times a very tedious film. Like I genuinely believe that they had, I don't know, maybe a 60-minute movie, but the studio told them they needed 90 minutes to actually get into the theaters. But then like the end, like Betsy Palmer just comes in and actually does save the movie with her performance, because she's the only like really memorable. I mean, even Bacon, like I love Bacon, but man, he's got nothing to do here, right? Like,
sure,
but
just
yeah, Betsy Palmer comes
dog.
in and it's just friggin' amazing and creepy and super memorable. Any other thoughts on this? It is a very, very weird installment, because the fact that it was so popular and yet the thing that people think of when they think of Friday the 13th has nothing to do with this movie. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing is just the brilliant thing that I don't think did they do it intentionally for a sequel, or did they just, we wanted to have a second shock ending of the whole dream sequence where Jason pops out of the water and grabs her. Was that, do we know if that was something that like they thought they set that up intentionally, or if that was just like we want to have some other additional shock ending? Do you guys know?
After Carrie, a shock ending were considered, pretty good. A pretty good move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what were you saying, Zach?
I do kind of feel like it's not setting up for a sequel, because it does it does only make sense in the idea, in the concept of being a dream sequence, right? Because I mean he's still a kid when he comes out, so it just doesn't make any sense at all.
He's a zombie. Of course, they're not gonna desecrate their by having guy turn out to be a zombie. Jeez.
So we'll get into some of there are some interesting lapses in like continuity. But we'll get into that. Watching all these movies back to back is definitely an experience. Cool. Well, if we don't have anything else to discuss for this one, that was a pretty light one. I will say I actually went back and just for the sake of comparison, I went and did some calculations based on inflation adjusted gross, because I was kind of curious how these movies actually did compare to each other. And this one, if this is just based on like an inflation calculator. Anyone who wants to be like, well, actually, you have to take into account the cost of ticket. No, I don't care. I literally just went to the inflation calculator. So based on when it was released versus when we were recording this, I think this one had an inflation adjusted gross of about $149 million, which is kind of insane. Okay, so that is our tippy top of the pile. But now we're going to go all the way back down to the bottom of the pile and start working our way back up. And I almost feel like we're going to have more to say about some of these other movies because they get pretty weird and pretty bad. So let's go down all the way to our 13th installment. That's right. Oh, wait, there's not a 13th installment. How they have not made a 13th movie just to call it Friday the 13th, Part 13. What is wrong with you, Hollywood? Yeah. Get your shit together. No. So, okay, we're going to go down to number 12, though. The bottom of the barrel. There were a couple of movies that I thought it was really interesting that we definitely had some disagreements about where they kind of land in the rankings here. But this was almost unanimous. Paul had to screw it up for all of us. But, yeah.
It wasn't me? Oh, I thought it was going to be me. Oh, this is fantastic. No. Okay.
Yeah, I believe Bill, Renee, and I had this as our bottom film, and Paul had this second to last. So believe it or not, the worst film in the Friday the 13th franchise is Friday the 13th. And now I actually am talking about the 2009 remake. For those of you who don't know, this was released, appropriately enough, Friday the 13th in February 2009. It was directed by award-winning director Marcus Nispel, who I believe had won the Academy Award for his Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. No, I'm just kidding. But this is a Platinum Dunes special, and for those of you who don't know, I think it's still around. Platinum Dunes was making a shit ton of these remakes in the early to mid 2000s. And it was Michael Bay's production company. So there's a lot of Bayhem. There are a lot of Bay fingerprints all over this movie, in my opinion. This one, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't follow on this because this was a $17 million movie. It made $65 million.
It made a fortune. I also cannot believe they didn't immediately make another one. So
yeah,
I'm pleased they didn't.
Let's get to our discussion of this piece of shit. Okay, so this is I'm gonna kick this off because I think this is a really interesting movie in that I kind of feel like, like you have your little brother and you pick on him and you make fun of him, you push him around all the time. And then you see some other kids picking on him and you go up and you get really angry because only you're allowed to pick on your little brother. That's kind of the way I feel about this movie because I have very little love for this franchise. I don't really understand its popularity. I don't really especially like a lot of these movies, but even this movie makes me a little angry because it's so bad. I don't know. Who wants to explain why this was either their last or second to last film on their list?
Okay, so they're remaking Friday the 13th, but they open it with the spoiler to the fucking movie. So they didn't remake that movie. They really remade the second movie. But everything was just so over the top. 7 minutes into the movie and they're talking about drinking each other's pee. The douches are extra douchey. I don't think any of these people even liked each other, much less are all friends that want to go on vacation together. I think actually the only thing I really kind of liked about it is that we got to kill fairly quickly. And also that the quote final girl that we all thought was going to be the final girl ended up dying. So that was pretty great. But it felt like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
Yeah, it felt like somebody presented that script and they were like, oh shit, we just made one of these. Can we just make it a Friday the 13th instead? And they said, oh yeah, that's cool. Because when has Jay ever kept people hostage?
Jay?
We've known each other.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I don't. Anyway,
because
very upsetting.
They ramped up the sadism in this film, and I'm not trying to defend the other films, but the other films, he's a force of nature. He kills. Yeah, that's what he does. But in this one, it's sort of Freddy-fying it, where he's enjoying the kills and he's prolonging the kills. It's a mean-spirited movie. It's more brutal and mean-spirited. It doesn't bring anything to the table that's new. Here's an opportunity to take something and do something with it, and all they really did was use digital effects, which I don't think are good. I mean, they're okay, but they're obviously digital effects. When you see something, here's the thing. When you see something on the screen that cannot be done, no matter how skilled you are, you can't do it. To me, it takes away some of the enjoyment of the film when you watch a good Tom Savini effect, like that first throat slit. I'm like, damn, how'd you do that? You know, but I knew it was real. I knew he did do it. He was just skilled enough to hide all the edges and get everything, and they rehearsed. It probably took them hours to shoot this one thing, as opposed to the minutes it took to film. Okay, now here's where the digital machete is going to go into you. Just pretend like a machete's going to, and then we see it and like, well, that's obviously not real. There's no attempt to, there's something to be said for H.G. Lewis's crap movies. When a woman gets a tongue torn out of her face, you know that they had a sheep tongue doused in pine sol because it was hot out there and it was going bad. And they convinced this woman to shove a sheep's tongue into her mouth and then pretend to pull it out. Oh, wow, damn, that's way grosser than actually what's being portrayed on the screen. That's one reason why those movies still work. This is a soulless, it's a cynical, soulless money grab, even for a Friday the 13th movie. They had it, and they spent $19 million on this. The others, $19 million. The others wish they had that kind of money, and this is what they got. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what both of you guys had said about it, the series in general is, to me, is about creative kills. You know,
Yes,
right?
right.
Well, the fun part about the series is let's do something unusual the way we kill somebody. I mean, there's a lot of repetition, but still, generally, it's the creativity there. It's hard to say, but not the. This seemed like more like torture porn. They were too concerned on let's have the people screaming in terror as we're slowly killing them.
So
there were
much
only
screaming.
Yes,
Yeah.
there were only 2 kills in this. I think that to me were fun, and that was the guy getting the arrow through his throat on the boat. Because it was just like boom, and then the topless water skier, not because she was topless, that didn't hurt, but still, just the look on her face when he jams the machete through the slats into her head and pulls her up, and then she slides off.
Yeah, that was good.
To me, that was actually kind of fun, and I was like, oh, but and I wanted to like this one because I'm like, we've had a lot of different kind of Jasons, and okay, this looks like this is going to be more like a hunter Jason. We've had some Jasons that had a little bit more thought to them than others, and I'm like, okay, it's but no, it just, I think Renee, you hit the nail on the head with the chainsaw.
I'll be happy to put this in the rankings when we watch that series.
And this kind of goes back to the age-old question that philosophers have debated for many, many years: fast zombies or slow zombies. I don't like this sprinter Jason here. This swimmer body.
Oh my God!
Jason.
Yes.
He's Jason
right,
is
because
a
you
big,
could tell he was jacked under that.
He is a big.
I've never wanted to
guy.
see Jason naked before.
He's not chasing you down. You're running, and he just goes at a nice steady pace, but he doesn't tire. He does cardio. He works out, but and when he catches you, it's all over. He is the inevitability of death. You can do what you want to put it off, but he is gonna run you down because he never tires. Jason never sleeps. That should be the title of the next one. Friday the 13th, Jason never sleeps. Yeah, there you go. No, this is silly. So we're going to make them faster. This is their solution to everything. We're going to remake Godzilla, but our Godzilla is going to be fast and lean. And okay, so not Godzilla is what you're saying, right? Okay. They just don't get it.
One other thing that really got me on this film, that really made me, was that it was so dark, and maybe it was the copy I was watching. I had to go back and bring it up on a laptop and mess with the contrast and go, oh no, if I get to the point where I can kind of see it, it blows everything else out. It's just, I mean, I get the idea. It's in the woods, it's dark, it's creepy. It's like, but they're like inside half the time and I can't see what's going on. And it's like, half the time I wasn't even sure which guy's running through the woods right now. I don't really know.
So the lighting was terrible, and also I wrote the note I took was that like there are so many action scenes where everything is super close up, and so it's badly lit and it's like badly filmed.
Composed,
and the final confrontation with Jared Padalecki. I don't even know what his character's name is, but him and Jason, I had no clue what the hell was going on.
So true though, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell I couldn't even tell like the geography of where they were half the time. It's like, wait, are they in the Jason's tunnels, or what the hell was this? I don't know. I couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah,
Jason's
not the greatest visual storytelling in this one. Also, did you guys watch these in order for your rewatch, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was like, I watched these in order, so I watched this last. So I watched this like I don't know 5 days ago, and I remember it the least. Like
Yeah. Oh,
nothing
yeah.
about this movie stuck with me.
Oh, yeah.
Now it may be that
I'm like,
that,
it's the guy from.
yeah.
The guy who looks like Scott Baio from that one sitcom is in it.
Oh yeah,
That's
no, I love him. He's the lawyer in Silicon Valley. I don't remember his name, but yeah, I actually do love him.
Now it may be, Zach, that part of your brain that can hold Friday the 13th information is now well and truly full. And
Could be,
you know,
could be. It only has enough room for 11 installments, and
Yeah.
this was just too much. That's possible.
this
That's
this
possible.
movie is it's the most recent movie. It's also so dated. The whole thing that this revolves around looking for like a marijuana plant in the middle of the forest
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I can just imagine kids in the future are going to watch this film and they're like, why are they doing that when they
Yeah.
could just go down the street to the Weeds
go to the
Are Us
dispensary.
franchise? Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Weeds are us.
Now, if they were looking for tobacco plants, that would be different.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, Bill. It's actually. Do you remember? Do you remember Johnny Mnemonic? Yeah, I know. That's no one will
Yeah.
ever
Oh,
answer
man.
yes to that. But yeah, where he's like he's the courier, but he's like, yeah, I had to dump some long term memory to make space, and someone asked him like, what does that mean? It's like he gave up all of his like childhood memories. Like, yeah, that's me. I had to give up all. So yeah, I don't remember any of my my birthday parties now, but I remember all the Friday the 13th movies.
Well, every time you've
Well, you
described a
figured that
childhood
the-
memory, it's horrible. So I could see where you would probably volunteer for
That's true.
electroshock.
It's true.
God.
And the 13th will probably be a two-parter, so it's good. You
Oh
can,
yeah. Oh, even
That is
better.
true.
yeah.
Even better.
That is true. If we follow the current Hollywood style, then yeah. But we won't know until the credits roll and the title comes up. Friday the 13th, 13
Ooh,
part 1.
I hope it's a two-parter, and they film it in like that 60 frames per second Hobbit vision thing that makes even
Yes.
multi-million-dollar movies look like the cheap-ass stuff you see when you go into Costco.
Yeah.
And they're trying to sell you a big screen TV. So here's tulips that look like you're looking out a window. For that price, I'll just plant a bunch of tulips outside my window.
My last note on this was, I think the thing I'm really disappointed in this movie, and you kind of mentioned it, Renee, that like the opening scene like speed runs the entire first film in like 3 lines, and then we get this weird mashup of part 2 and part 3, and it's like it's not this movie's fault that the Jason lore is so thin, but it's the fault of this movie that it doesn't really try to like rise above that at all, and it's one of those weird things where you go back and read interviews. Like I was kind of skimming. I didn't do a ton of research because there are so many movies, but I was reading some like quotes from the screenwriters, and they were talking about, you know, staying true to Jason and, you know, staying true to the legacy and all that. And I'm like, but you didn't really do anything interesting. You just kind of like rehashed what was already there. And you did, I don't know. I think that there was like the fact that it's so thin, like there is a world where a remake added some interesting backstory or something. I don't know, but this ain't it. So
Well, Zach, you're forgetting the part that they explained how Jason survived all those years in the woods because he was a hunter and he set up traps, right? So there you go.
Yeah.
I was just like, that was the one thing I was like, that didn't necessarily need to be explained.
Right.
The other funny thing is when you're talking about that, I just realized, oh yeah, and they also did the whole, we got to have potato sack Jason, and now we'll have just inexplicably have him find the hockey mask, and like, okay, yeah,
Right.
and he picks it up because he's like, oh yeah, I should be wearing this.
yeah, it's.
I think too, one of the things I like about him historically is that he would just kind of kill people with what was around.
Yeah.
Like he would like just happen to have this, and he would creatively find a way to kill someone with it. And
good
now
with
it's
his
like he had
hands.
his little shed full of tools. Yeah, it's like he doesn't have a shed of tools.
I think that's
not how
actually,
it
you know,
works.
I was kind of thinking about this too, because like I think that Jason is at his best when he is kind of an unthinking killing machine.
Yeah.
Like when you compare and contrast him to Michael Myers, like Michael Myers is a stalking predator, right? He's the he's the predator that will stalk his prey across hundreds of miles and wear them down and finally pounce. And Jason is more of a territorial predator where you're probably okay if you don't come into his backyard, but if you do, he's gonna just wreck you, right? For no reason other than you're in his backyard.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's basically the ultimate fuck around and find out character.
I love it.
And yeah, I think I wasn't even thinking about that in relation to this film, but I think you're absolutely right that it's just he feels too purposeful in this movie, and also kind of torture porny. So yeah, I think they were there. I mean, this was around the time that the Saw and the Hostel movies had come out, and now that you mentioned that, I think they were 100% chasing that.
Yeah.
We've talked about this movie more than it deserves. But isn't it interesting? We had more to say about this than we did about the one we all liked.
Yeah, true,
right.
True.
So I am curious now. What was Paul's last? Does that come next? Maybe.
It's funny that you would ask that.
Is it?
Because
did I make a segue?
You made a perfect segue.
Good deal.
Yeah,
All right, I wasn't that
nicely
far
done.
off then. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we can move on to our 11th entry in our rankings, and this was Paul's least favorite movie. So I'm gonna let him kick off and tell us why Friday the 13th Part 7: The New Blood is the worst of all Friday the 13th movies.
Well, I mean, at this point, the formula was getting really old. I mean, they were trying to do, and I guess for me, the reason why I ranked it less, and it's not their fault so much, because apparently this one got, let's put it this way, the censors went at it as if they were Jason. This one was like, seemed to be like the most bloodless of all of them, and like you're like, oh, I'm gonna see. I didn't see anything. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. And apparently they'd filmed most of that. They filmed a lot of the stuff, and it just all got cut out. And so to me, it was one of the ones where I'm just like, oh God, is this movie over yet? And so I was on the fence between the 2009 one and this one, and I had to sit there and go, which one, if you put a gun to my head, would I say pull the trigger before I watch either? Probably be both, but I'd be a little less likely for the 2009 one if they would adjust the contrast. So maybe I could see what was going on. So that's what this. I mean, the only other interesting thing on this one, the whole time I kept waiting for Weekend at Bernie's for him to like kill him and then use him like a puppet. Like that didn't happen, and so I was disappointed. That's why I'll throw it to the bottom, because like they didn't even Weekend at Bernie's him. They were going to weed eater him, but then you didn't even see it.
Oh, that would have been funny. Although I think wasn't Weekend at Bernie's a year after this? I think
could be.
Yeah,
but then they would have been prescient, and they would have known that's what they could have done.
To put it in the context, by the way, for those of you keeping score, this was the 1988 installment. It came out May 13th. Ooh, another actual Friday the 13th release. This was directed by John Carl Buechler. You guys are big Buechler fans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Written by Daryl Haney and Manuel Fidello. This one, the budgets were getting kind of bigger here. This one had a $2.8 million budget. Still made $19 million at the box office, but by this point, the movies, these were kind of slipping. This was the 56th top grossing film of the year. Yeah, Bill or Renee, what are your thoughts on the Jason versus Carrie aesthetic?
Yeah, I rated this better, but not because I like it more. Once you get to these last few, it's basically, do you want a shit sandwich or shit soup? It's like, anything without shit in it? No. And then, so really, what difference does it make?
Oh,
it's terrible. The Carrie thing comes out of nowhere. I mean, this is like the Cousin Oliver of film things when you start bringing out psychics and stuff. Oh, come on. It's just dopey. dopey. It's got nothing going for it, but it didn't. The reason I rated it better than the ones that I put at 11 and 10 is it didn't offend me in some way.
Yes. Yes.
And the ones that I put there, just personally, they have something about them. Maybe it's just the title, but it bugs me. But this is a complete waste of time. Absolute waste of time. And I don't think anyone has any intention of, hey, what are you going to bring back the psychic girl? No, please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Yeah, for reference, Bill, you and I actually had this. We both had this as ninth on our
Okay.
list. So I think we agreed that
Okay.
it's not a good film by any stretch of the
no.
imagination, but there are absolutely 3 movies that are more offensive than this.
Yeah.
And Renee had it second to last. Paul had it last. And it's kind of interesting too, because like I think you'll hear me talk a lot about, in some of these conversations that like watching up through this installment, I kept just wanting more plot. I was like, give me something, give me give me something that's not just Jason randomly killing people. And then this movie absolutely gives us more
Right.
plot. Except it's a whole weird side plot of this, like someone who was reading like on a Stephen King binge. Daryl Haney, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely on a Stephen King binge. And it was like, ooh, what if like Firestarter / Carrie fought Jason? Like, this is a weird fanfic because
Yeah,
it's just,
that's a really
I don't
good
know.
point. Yeah.
The whole weird subplot of her killing her dad, and then Bernie, I can't remember his name in the movie or the actor's name, so we'll just call him Bernie. Bernie trying to harness her power. It's just I mean, who cares?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I mean, I also had the girl's name is Tina. I only know that because I wrote it down in my notes, because I wrote Tina telekinetically throwing a potted plant at Jason, maybe the top 10 stupidest moments in the series. So
See, that gets me too.
That's his weakness.
They get pot. They give these characters whenever they have like a psychic or something, and they have these power. They have telekinesis. Like you could clear Russia out of the Ukraine if you really had telekinetic powers and stuff. The things you could do, but it's like they're so unimagined. I'm going to throw a potted plant at you. It's like when Green Lantern has a ring that can do anything, and all he ever does with it is make a big fist. Come on, Green Lantern, show a little imagination here. But yeah, it's dumb. Just dumb.
I mean, I guess to be fair, she could barely move the matchbook, but yeah, you'd think that she could just like, I don't know, rip his machete arm off or something. I don't know. Yeah, and also like let's talk a little bit. I am curious. I don't know if you guys had any notes about the design of Jason in this one, because this is. Since we're jumping around, it's kind of erratic, but this is where like he's the full-on zombie Jason era, where he's so obviously a zombie that his entire, like, you basically see a skeleton on his back. The design is kind of neat from a makeup standpoint, but I also just I don't know, it just seems like we're in goofball mode here.
Yes.
Well, I think they were trying. I think they were trying to go with, because he'd been underwater and kind of rotting, I guess.
Right.
Is my thought is that
he's waterlogged.
He's waterlogged, but I think they did there's another film where they do a much better version of that.
Again, those zombies should not be strong. Their muscles are torn up and
well, let's not get started on that.
That is true. He's basically like meat sloughing off his bones, and yet he's still as strong as he is. I also love the continuity of the series. Because and again, we'll get to we'll get to the older ones, but I think it was it's the one right before this. In Jason Lives, like there's a whole plot point about they don't call the town Crystal Lake anymore, because they didn't want to be associated with the killings, and then in this installment we're just back to Crystal Lake because who cares. The only thing about this movie that is even remotely notable in the like watching the entire series is I totally forgot that Jason X actually pays homage to this one, because this is the first time that he puts someone in a sleeping bag and bashes them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It was the best scene.
Yeah.
in this movie.
The best scene. It's not saying much, but yeah, definitely.
And it was a yellow sleeping bag. It reminded me very much of
Prophecy?
movie,
Prophecy.
Yes, thank you. Prophecy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
which-
funny.
I was
which
like
did
that.
it
I
before.
felt like it had to be an homage to the prophecy, but that was just me projecting.
Which
I
then
really
again
like
makes
that.
sense because did Jason sort of look like a giant salami bear?
He sort of did.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on part 7, The New Blood here before we move on?
Not really. I didn't really like. It was funny because she killed her dad with her telepathy, but then she brought Jason back with her telepathy.
So she did nothing.
Yeah.
She did nothing good with her telepathy. She's killing people she doesn't want to kill. And she's bringing back serial killers.
And I think it was like she was thinking about her dad, so it was like the power of love brought back Jason instead.
Oh wow!
I was like, oh no. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could bring you back.
Was bad. But then she ended up like bringing her dad back after all, but just long enough to help.
Yeah.
I think that wasn't that supposed to be a dream sequence though.
I honestly
Was it?
am
No,
not
I thought
sure.
that was supposed to be like canon. And
Oh,
then how
okay,
he got pulled
okay.
back under?
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the
yeah.
thing, because I was kind of struggling with that because if that's not a dream sequence, that means that they just left his body down there for 10 years. Like if they didn't. I'm just saying.
At least they knew
They're
where
like,
he was.
he's down. Oh, we're just getting the fuck out. Or you mean the dad?
Yeah, the dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Well, he was
screw
like
him.
he was an abusive
Yeah,
asshole.
he was
so
kind of a
fuck him.
jerk. So
Yeah.
it's
Well.
fine.
Well,
Okay.
still, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess arguably the cops in Crystal Lake are pretty useless. So I guess I could. I
Well,
guess
and
I
if
could
there's a
see that.
risk of retrieval, you don't really want to risk it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason keeps killing
absolutely.
Him, so that's,
If I'm being paid a cop salary and they're like, hey, you got to go down and Camp Chris, here's some scuba gear. Go dive and get the remains of Jason. You're like, screw you, sir. No way.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah, I do love the fact that he's just the body's just been down there for like I guess and it's also the continuity of these films is very hard to figure out. But I guess by this point he's been in that lake for at least like I don't know 12 years. So
Hey, can I ask? Camp Crystal Lake. So the actual camp set. Does anyone know where that was set? Because
Was it in New Jersey?
I think it's New Jersey.
If they have
New
not
Jersey,
taken
yeah.
if they have not taken advantage of the fact that they are
They do.
iconic.
Yeah, I think
okay.
the camp is still there.
Good.
Yeah, I read something that was like that the camp is still there and they very heavily lean on that. So
Can you camp there?
I think I don't know. What I was reading made it sound like it was like an actual like summer camp.
Yeah, it was originally like a Boy Scout camp or something, and I think they do have like yearly Friday the 13th fests or something there where people go and watch it outside and camp there and
fun.
stuff.
And then the rest of the year, it's just a regular camp for parents who hate their kids and want to traumatize them.
That was actually the original name of the camp, but it didn't go over too well. Okay, well, let's move on from The New Blood to another film that coincidentally has new in the title.
Oh, here we go.
And this one,
okay.
this was our 10th movie. We had, let's see what our rankings are. I'm actually going to let Renee kick us off talking about this one because... So Bill had this at number 11. Paul and I agreed this was a solid number 10 out of 12, but Renee had it top 8. She had it as number 8.
Wow.
So Renee, why defend your ranking here?
No. Okay, so there's a couple little things. I think honestly, I think part of it is a teeny tiny bit of nostalgia. Because this was one that I really distinctly remember watching on TV when I was a kid, especially the opening scene where little Corey Feldman is like the whole time. So I thought the little boy Reggie was adorable. His older brother, I forget his name. He's been in a couple other horror movies, not big parts. I think it was like what was he in Return of the Living Dead or something.
Are you talking about the guy who gets killed in the outhouse?
Yes.
Oh, that's Miguel Nunez, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Miguel Nunez, thank you. So I really like him. Okay, I know the scene was so stupid. But the greaser guys where he's like, rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tooey.
So
It was so stupid and so funny.
Can I just say that there are so many sequences in this movie. Like I get that most, like, a majority of most of these movies is just set up for we're introducing characters to get killed.
Right.
Most of them do it pretty quickly. This movie had so many sequences that went on so goddamn long.
Yeah.
And the greasers was also, what are the, like, were there greasers in the 80s or
I don't even
know.
know.
Yeah, Sean.
Maybe they're from a traveling. Yeah, they were traveling. They were the cast of Sha-na-na traveling.
Yeah, so you have the greasers, you have the weird redneck guy and his mom.
Oh my god, that really
was just like,
irritated me.
they're just
that
like,
woman was like 40. It's like, all right, brother.
Greasers had a longer lifespan than anyone can understand if you didn't grow up at that time. There's no reason why they should be there, but I just want to point out, my girlfriend dragged me to go see Grease 5 times in the theater. Still holds the record for the number of times in a one summer that I saw a movie. Sha-na-na was a big hit on TV. And here, get ready to have your mind blown. Sha-na-na played at Woodstock. And there were more people watching them than there were watching Jimi Hendrix. All right? Because watch the movie Woodstock, and Jimi Hendrix is out there just doing amazing stuff to nobody. Everyone's gone home. Everyone's left at that point. Sha-na-na just exhausted them from the standing ovation they gave Sha-na-na. Yeah, greasers were a big thing, and now it just seems like the dopiest thing in the world. If anyone showed up in my school with that persona, they would be laughed out. By the kids who have no friends, they would be laughed out. Just, yeah.
To be fair, Bill, though, I don't think that there are a lot of people who were at Woodstock who are now proudly telling their grandchildren that they actually saw Sha-na-na live.
No. They all were there while Jimi Hendrix was doing the Star Spangled Banner. That's the story they tell.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miguel Nunez getting killed in the outhouse.
Some of those kills were pretty good. Like the tree
true.
tourniquet.
Some of them were good. So that one is probably one of my favorite kills, and I couldn't rationalize ranking this higher because of that. But yeah, that is a pretty brutal one.
I guess if it's any indication of, like, they're really all that bad that I ranked it that high. And it really didn't take much. It didn't take much for me to be like, I like this movie because of this 30-second clip.
It's showtime!
I love too, like, as I was looking at these rankings, I was like, sometimes I'm like, ooh, someone's really going to defend their ranking here. But for this series, I was just assuming everyone was going to be like, it wasn't as bad as the other ones.
Yeah.
Well,
that's how a lot of it for me
this
was like, would I rather watch it or not?
This
you
one,
hate this movie. Go ahead, Bill.
This
Sorry.
one had no chance with me. No chance, because for one thing, it followed one of the better ones, which also not only was it one of the better ones, but in the title it said the final chapter. So the fact that they make we follow the final chapter with a new beginning, and you're just like, wow, you're just slapping me in the face with contempt, aren't you? You'd better knock this out of the park. And they did not, in fact, knock it out of the park. It's also got one of the worst twist endings ever. So we go from Friday the 13th with one of the best shots to one of the lamest. Just everyone in the theater groaned at the end. Like, you know, they hung around for the post-credit sequence to get the bad taste out of their mouth, but alas, it never came. It's, you know... It also made me feel a little bit like they were ripping off Freddy, you know, the whole thing of here's a institution with the Breakfast Club kids. Oh, here's the goth kid. Here's the greaser kid. Here's this kid. She's got an eating disorder. He's a Nazi, you know, whatever. And they all come together and they get killed. Nothing. There's just nothing good about this. Just,
the only thing is I was thinking about it today. One thing you kind of give them credit for is they sort of wanted to go back to what it feels like the first one, because again, this one it was back to the whodunit, right? It was back to who's the murderer, and also this one it turns out to be a parent getting revenge for the death of their disabled child. Think about that, because that's what the first one was, right? Because Jason was disabled and died. This one, his son was disabled and gets murdered, and he's getting revenge for that. So I sit there and I go, again, this is one where it's like, wow, if I think about it, but then you go, yeah, but if I had to watch it again, I really don't want to.
Yeah, so you're saying it's uninvolving and unoriginal. So that's what it's got going for it. That
No,
it's,
not a. I mean, no, I don't think it's not that. I think they actually were intentionally trying to do like a callback
Sure.
to the first one.
Okay, yeah.
But just did unartfully and terribly.
I do have an interesting note there, which is in a parallel universe where this movie was actually good and successful, and it actually was successful. This was I should again I'll go back real quick and recap for since we're jumping around. This was 1985, released March 22nd. Made it was a $2.2 million budget and it made just shy of $22 million. So still
Good return.
huge money here. But yeah, in a world where like this was like the fans liked this and it was a good film, when you think about it, this is kind of setting up the Scream formula before Scream was a thing. Because think of like think of it, every installment there's a killer and you don't know who so there could have been, I don't know, I imagine in a parallel universe there's a whole series of people donning the Jason mask and you don't know who it is until the end. Luckily this one was so bad they didn't keep doing that. But yeah, I kept wondering, it was funny too because I was like, why do they keep showing this paramedic? Like they keep lingering on him, and at the end I was like, oh, that's still stupid. Also, I realized that it's kind of integral to the story, but again, like the whole sequence where he's killed and he's just like offering people, like that's like 10 minutes of my life I'll never get back. Yeah, it's just not great. I do kind of like wish, and this is another thing that I was kind of thinking about in comparison to the Halloween movies. I think that the thing I really struggle with in this series is Jason does not have a consistent protagonist. And I like, you know, every installment you have a final girl who lives and then is either killed or just written off completely. With Tommy Jarvis, it was like, oh yeah, okay, now we finally have someone for him to like face off against. But obviously he's not even in this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been nice if they had done this right. But yeah, very strange movie. What do you now, Bill? Like, you said that the reaction wasn't great. Did the fans turn against the series with this one, or?
I think everyone just like no Jason, nice. I mean, at least Halloween 3, they tried something new, and whether you think it succeeded or failed, you know, everyone knew that the filmmakers were trying to do something. This was just the Friday the 13th is Jason. It's one and the same. If you don't have Jason, don't make the movie. If you're tired of Jason, just stop making them. It is what it is. There's no new beginnings. There's no new blood. There's no new chapters. You can make a good Jason movie. You can make a bad Jason movie. But if you're going to do a Friday 13th, just make a Jason movie.
That should be the tagline for the Part 13 Lego sequel. No new beginnings, no new chapters.
Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tooey.
No new blood. Oh man! Now I want a Lego sequel where you find that someone's hunting Jason. At the end, it turns out that it's the brother of one of the greasers who was killed in this movie.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I will say one other thing. This is a terrible movie. But it is actually made way better by there's a fantastic song / music video. There's a group called Wolfie's Just Fine. Does anyone know what that's a reference to? Yeah, there's a T2 reference, so you already know it's going to be a great band. But they have they have a song called A New Beginning, and it is a great song. It is a fantastic music video. I'm going to drop some screen caps here into our chat. I know no one can see these if you're just listening, but where they basically like recreate some of the scenes from the movie, and the whole idea is like it's like someone who was a kid watching this movie like as a little kid and being terrified by it. So I encourage everyone to go check that out. Again, it's A New Beginning by Wolfie's Just Fine, and that's probably the nicest thing I can say about this movie is that it inspired a really great music video. So, okay, let's move on and talk about where are we here? Let me go down our list here. Oh yeah, talking about speaking of final films in this franchise, let's go to all the way to 1993 for a film that doesn't even have Friday the 13th in the name because New Line bought the rights to Jason but could not get the rights to Friday the 13th because the rights to this franchise. Yeah, it's great. So they had to name it Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday. And Bill, I'm going to let you kick off this conversation and then tell you why you're wrong, because you had this.
Yeah,
you had this ranked number 7.
Yeah.
Now Paul and Renee are also wrong. You both had this ranked number 9. I had this number 11, just a hair ahead of the remake. But why? Like, what do you like about this movie?
Very little. I'm telling you, once you get past number 6,
perfect.
As far as I'm concerned, everything else is just, again, shit sandwich or shit soup. And maybe I was just in the mood for soup. It goes down faster. Okay, so what is there about this? I mean, this is sort of the end of all the original Jason stuff and everything. Immediately it's the final Friday. So again, they're insulting us, but maybe they really intended that was what was going to happen. Except clearly they didn't, because the one thing that this has going for it is literally the last shot. The last shot in the film, which is thin gruel to a success on. Actually, once again, the audience, instead of going, we're like, whoa! And then it's like, lights come on, we have to go home. We're like, wait, that's it? Huh? But the promise, there actually will be maybe a good movie coming out of this. And there was a good movie that came out of it. I mean, relatively good. Okay, wait a minute. Now, this is the one, let me think about this. Is this the one that opens with the... or am I thinking of Jason X? Is this the one that they all blend together? That opens with him like being like hit by SWAT teams and stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will say the opening is one of the few parts of this film I actually like, because it's the woman's like going to the shower and then it turns out, it was actually bait, which is kind of clever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
that. Yeah. So
the first time I watched it, I was like, oh wow, this is actually going to be pretty good.
Right.
And then the rest of the movie happened.
Okay, so it has a good beginning and it has a good ending, and that's why it managed to squeeze its way all the way up to number 7. But really, it should not feel proud about winning that race, because it was racing against a bunch of kids in wheelchairs with no wheels. And yeah, so it's a pretty terrible movie. But there's just something so weird about it. The guy eating the heart. Jason is now completely into weirdness, and there's worms, and it's got the deaths are kind of cool. It's completely nonsensical. Jason's now purely into the supernatural, and I guess this is where we're going, whether we like it or not. No, it's not a good movie. It doesn't hold up to repeated viewings or even one viewing, but it's just, to me, it just doesn't. And I know I put one film that I'm pretty sure everyone else rated higher. I'm taking these things kind of personally here. The disappointment, because going to see like part 2 and being so disappointed that it was so far away from part 1, and the repeated new bloods and promises that we're going to take Manhattan that are completely unrealized. It's like, guys, you're just lying to me. At least he did go to hell. So
fair enough.
I feel like an abused spouse watching these films. As a fan of horror movies, they're just like, we're going to make you watch 12 of these. Like, really? That seems like an awful lot. Do you have enough material? Oh, no, not at all. Yeah. Okay.
One thing this does have that does knock it. That's why it's at least marginally higher on mine. It's got little Leslie Jordan in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's so weird. So random.
But so does Frankenstein General Hospital, and we won't talk about that.
Yeah,
so.
Well, yeah. But he was really good at playing Leslie Jordan characters.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to rewind a little bit again for people who don't have all the facts in front of them. They really care. This was actually the only Friday the 13th film to be released in the 90s. Came out August 13th, 1993. Had a budget of $3 million, according to numbers.com, and I don't know if I believe that. It looks like it cost about a tenth of that. It didn't make it. This is when the franchise was basically dead. It was the 87th top grossing film of the year with a little shy of $16 million. But still, that's $16 million on a $3 million budget. So these movies were like still making a profit, even though fewer people were going to see them. Yeah, I mean, Renee, Paul, I have a lot of negative comments, but either of you want to weigh in before I do?
Honestly, I did not like that he's no longer Jason, but he's like this weird entity. I just didn't like the weird, like the guy, and he was so serious, and then he was like breaking Steven's fingers. Like that was super weird and intense.
Yeah, it's like, you got to pay a price. Like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, that was like, that didn't make any sense.
Makes no sense.
But I did leave a note that said, get you a friend like Steven, because he will go all the way for you. So, you know, and Tango the Wonder Dog. That's my star of the show, Tango the Wonder Dog.
Well, and they went Halloween 2 on us with this one. Oh, you're Jason's, was it Jason's sister?
Right.
Or, yeah, wasn't it? When like Aaron Gray was Jason's sister, and you're like, what the fuck? When did we get into Halloween 2 territory?
I thought they went Halloween
But,
5 on this. You know, they're trying to create this mythos with the bloodline and this and that, and I was waiting for a cult to show up, and okay. All right, whatever. At least I guess it makes sense now that I mean the fact that he can come back from anything. It clearly at a certain point, Jason jumped the shark on whether he's a living flesh and blood creature to being just pure zombiedom, and this one just takes it to the ultimate level, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I do kind of like his kind of goopiness in this one when you do see him, where it's it's just kind of like the mask has grown into his face, and that was kind of cool. But the only other thing is also it's got the male lead. Well, the one whose fingers was broken, John DeLeMay. What else was he in? What we're not going to talk about, which is Friday the 13th, the series.
Oh,
He was the main guy on Friday the 13th, the series. He was
I had no idea.
young guy.
Well.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, was a series that had absolutely nothing to do with the Friday the 13th film series. It was just like named Friday the 13th, and I think it had like the same logo because reasons. So yeah, this movie came out in 93. Rewatching it now, this really feels like something that should have gone straight to video. I don't know like how this ended up being a theatrical film. The fact that we're 9 installments in and we're adding all of this lore about Jason has like I guess a half sister. B, he's immortal and can like jump into different bodies. I actually kind of liked like Creighton Duke. I like the concept of having a Jason bounty hunter, but they also just totally screwed that up because due to the fact that they're introducing all of this stupid lore, they have to have a character show up and explain it all, which is pretty much what he does. This is actually something that kind of comes up in one of the other movies, but I do kind of like the idea of like someone hunting Jason. But very like I think Stephen Williams is actually decent in this movie, but it's all just extremely stupid. It doesn't really feel like a Friday the 13th movie. In fact, it feels like something that's been done before and it's been done better. Because I was watching this, I was like, why does this feel so familiar? And I was like, oh yeah. I already watched this movie. It starred Kyle MacLachlan, and it came out in 1987. Yes. It was called The Hidden. Yep. It was a pretty cool movie. And which, for those of you who don't know, is about like this alien that can like jump into different people's bodies, and it actually does like it's this little worm thing that comes out of your mouth.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's a great movie.
That's right.
It is. Yeah, it's a great movie, and good luck finding it. It's never streaming. I've wanted to do it on Decades of Horror, and it's never streaming. So. Whatever.
Oh, that can be one of our episodes on best movies that are never streaming.
Yeah, and Q-tips. In fact, I think we talked about The Hidden. If you go back and listen to last year's episode, because I believe it was directed by, I cannot remember the name of the director, but he also made Nightmare on Elm Street too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just everything about this movie is incredible. It's like, okay, this movie, I think you actually kind of hit the nail on the head, Bill. Like, there's something about low budget 80s movies which is like excusable. and almost like endearing. And when you get into low budget 90s movies, they just look cheap and they look like something that would have been straight to video. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this. I don't understand. And also the fact that like New Line bought the rights to Friday, or they bought the rights to the character. Obviously they were very intent on making some Jason movies. So the first thing they do is go and make a movie that totally rewrites his lore and really has very little to do with. I don't know. It just does not make any sense
weird.
at all. I guess there's I don't know. Maybe you have to respect the fact they were trying to do something new, but it just did not work. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Just one other thing came to mind. Isn't this the one that had the Necronomicon in it? Isn't it at one point when they're like
it has
so.
Yes. It has and not only that, it has the crate from Creepshow.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
I missed
It's
that
obviously made by people who like horror films, which is actually weird to me that they would put all those little tidbits in there and then it's just a very shitty movie. But I guess that goes to show that not all horror fans can make horror movies.
Nope.
So, and again, like all of these movies, by the way, like I remember on our Nightmare on Elm Street series, I kept talking about the writers and directors and the other things that they had done and the other things that I enjoyed from them. And almost all of the people involved in these movies have like nothing else basically on their film. Like the ones who have done other things, it's just absolutely nothing I've ever heard of. So like if I told you this one is directed by Adam Marcus and written by Dean Lorey and Jay Hughley, I have never heard those names before, and you know we're all pretty big horror fans. So okay, well let's move on. Let's move on to simpler times. Let's go back to the 80s. And let's actually change scenery because Jason has been puttering around Crystal Lake for quite some time, killing campers and counselors. But what happens when he takes the Big Apple? That's right. Our number 8 installment is 1989's Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Or as it should be probably more appropriately titled, Jason Takes a Boat to Manhattan.
Jason takes a cruise. That's what he does.
Love, exciting and new. Come aboard. We're expecting you and love. Life's sweetest reward.
Jason Takes a Cruise.
He does.
I don't know. Paul, I'm gonna for no particular reason, I'll let you kick this off. Bill actually had this as his number 10. Mm-hmm. Paul's had it at number 8, and Renee and I had it tied at number 7. But Paul, do you have any strong feelings about this one either way? I guess that's what I should be asking. What are your thoughts? But do you have any thoughts whatsoever?
I like Slimy Jason. I did like the design of Slimy Jason. But so Crystal Lake now all of a sudden is somehow contiguous with the Atlantic Ocean, apparently, because they get out to sea, and then
I did have a quick question. Paul, are you from New Jersey, or am I just being very racist because you're Italian? So I assume you're from New Jersey. No, you're not. Bill,
no, my parents grew up in Brooklyn.
Okay. So your family's from New York. Bill, your family's you're from New York, right?
Yeah, I was born in Staten Island.
Okay, there you go. So I guess question for both of you: when you are on the coast of like New Jersey, New York, do you see mountains like you see in this movie?
Yes, you see
curious.
Mountains of trash, mountains of toxic waste of New Jersey.
Yeah. Okay. So so like I took a screenshot of my favorite. Like you don't see towering
look at that.
mountains like in the back. Yeah.
Oh yes, that's Mount Jersey right there.
Mount Jersey. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a landfill.
Yeah.
There's many a good story is buried there.
I love it. I love it how you can tell when these movies switch from being shot in New Jersey to being shot in California to being shot in Canada. Anyway, sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, but yeah, and so in other words, I mean, it makes no sense that all of a sudden they're on a, and also the cruise ship. There's what? How many kids are on the in this graduating class? Like 10. There's like hardly any kids there, and then it looks like they're on an old like repurposed trawler or something. I mean, this is hardly even like a small cruise ship. This is like,
God.
oh, here's where we store the fish. So, but I did like Slimy Jason, and I do like. Speaking of slimy people, the guy, the one who plays like the principal or whatever he is, like, because he was in a bunch of stuff. I can't remember what the actor's name was because I'm terrible, but but that was so weird to see him in this. I was like, what the hell is he doing in this movie?
Yeah.
So,
although, well, in his defense, he's actually not super. Well, I guess he's slimy in different ways because the one student does like proposition him, and he's like, "No, get away from me." So,
that's true. Yeah, and then
didn't he try to like drown his daughter?
No, he was.
That's why I said he's
well,
slimy
it was
in
that
different ways.
misguided. It was that misguided. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm going to teach them to swim by pushing him into the water thing. See, it was he was misguided abuse.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, by the way,
So-
again, I love how so many of these, and there are a couple of them that do that, but they have these weird, they introduce characters, and they're like, oh, by the way, this character has some history with Jason that we have never mentioned before. And in her case, it was like, getting almost drowned in Crystal Lake.
Well, so my feelings on this film actually was when I was watching, I was like, I wonder if they really, when they originally wrote this, they wanted this to be the character from part 7 to be Psychic Girl, because all of a sudden this girl has these weird psychic connection to Jason. And I was like, I wonder if they wrote it that way and then they just decided not to, because it sure seemed like it to me. But so and I wasn't really too bothered by the fact that 2/3 of the film are not in Manhattan. I mean, they eventually get there, but I think they kind of squander a lot of the opportunities they had with that. But
I thought it was weird that he was hearing a dude voice and not his mom. Like, where'd the dude come from? It was super weird though with the teacher. Like, your teacher drives you out to the boat. Like, all right, whatever inappropriate relationship this is. But she gave her Stephen King's pen, which I thought, like, okay, that's kind of cool. But there was like, I don't know. It was, God, the hair and everything. And the chick with the guitar. I kind of love that he killed her with the guitar.
Good. Yeah. Well, nobody's.
Yeah.
That shot was actually really good. I did note that there are some interesting kills, and that shot was good when he kills Kelly Hu on the dance floor and the music just stops.
Yeah.
There are a couple of moments in this movie.
Yeah.
well, I do like actually when the one guy fights him on the roof.
Yes,
And he's like,
I had that
he's
as
like,
well.
and that was actually kind of cool. I like that he's like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna do my best. And then he's just like, he's exhausted. Like, just give him, and then he punches his block off, knocks his block off. But,
I like that. I kind of like that too, because it was the idea that like even this dude who's obviously like a really good boxer, like he can just like Jason just stands there and takes it, and then you exhaust yourself, and then he literally kills you in one hit.
Yeah.
And a shout out to Toby. Toby's a good boy. His name is Ace, and I would like everyone to know that he was in the 1992 movie The Odyssey, starring Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
And there was some really great trivia. Our favorite IMDb trivia.
Oh God.
Yeah, one line said, it just said, is a dog. The next entry said, is a border collie. Classic IMDb trivia.
Oh man, it's actually funny. I was looking through some IMDb trivia for these movies, and some of it is just like so obviously not true. So I don't even bother looking at it anymore.
Oh, let me just say, let me say about this movie. This one's number 10 and easily could have slipped into number 11. This one pisses me off because I was in the theater watching when the trailer for this came on, and the audience
Is that the
went
teaser?
ape shit. The trailer was great. It slow reveal, they're showing the big city. I forget exactly how it goes, but they're showing the city that never sleeps. Dun 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 dun, dun whatever. And we slowly pan around, and it's Jason, and then Jason takes Manhattan.
takes Manhattan. Now, New York has a new problem.
And I don't know, I may have been going to see The Notebook. I don't know what it was. It was not, who knows? But everyone cheered. Like, finally, something new, something different. This is great. You could, every single one of the people in that audience went home that night, and when they put their head on the pillow, dreamed the screenplay for Jason Takes Manhattan. There's so much opportunity. Hey, does he show up on Off-Broadway and kill a bunch of bad actors? Yay! Does he lead a group of homeless people? Does he go after some corrupt politicians? Yay! I mean, there's so many things you could do in New York. Does he go there and he's beaten up by homeless people and corrupt politicians? Does it turn out that New York is too much for even Jason? It's so awful that even Jason runs back to Camp Crystal Lake. It's like the country mouse and the city mouse story. Oh, who knows? Oh, so many things you could do. All you had to do was do what the title said. Have him go to Manhattan and take it. Take it, by God. And then it's like, did they make a movie that was actually called Jason Takes a Cruise? And then when it was over, they woke up from their Coke binge and said, oh my God, we have made an absolute piece of shit. This movie's going to lose money. We're going to be the first people to lose money on a Friday 13th movie. What can we do? And someone suggested this. And they're like, oh, where were you when we were writing the script? That's a great idea. We're going to call it that and just lie about it. Let's go film, 10 minutes of New York stuff and slap it in at the end. Oh, this movie is such a wasted opportunity. It's hard to think of our Friday 13th as saying, oh, like Paul's, you squandered an opportunity. But by golly, they did. They absolutely did. And they took a movie that if they'd made even an average film based on the premise of the film, it would have easily been in the top 6. Would it have been great art? Probably not. Although, you know what? This is the sort of crazy idea that if you just embrace it and go for it, people will have a good time and say, yeah, that was a fun one. They all should have been like this. And instead, they did the exact opposite. And I don't know, what did they think was going to happen? I don't understand movies that the marketing is telling you one thing and the actual movie is something else. It's like you got a depressing Billy Crystal movie about a giant who dies. Or let's market it as a wacky, zany comedy about a guy and a giant. Won't people be upset when they go to the movie and it's really depressing? Yeah, but by that point we got their ticket. If you're there for more than 45 minutes, you can't get your money back.
Oh my God.
Hopefully they won't talk about it. I don't know. Yeah, this is just, it's not the worst movie. And actually the New York stuff is pretty cool. Like you say, the boxing match and everything. The relative goodness of that section just makes me even more angry.
One of my top notes on here is I am still to this day waiting for Jason to take Manhattan. Yeah, it's a huge waste. There are a couple, like I said, little things I like about this movie. Like some of the kills are stylistic. I do like Alex Diakun. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's the guy who plays the ship hand or whatever. I love him. He's the stand-in for the Crazy Ralph character from the first two movies.
The Harbinger guy?
Yeah. You're all gonna die. Really like him. He's a Canadian actor that he pops up and stuff all the time. Okay, I do have another question though, regarding the end of the movie. Maybe Paul or Bill, you can answer this. Is it true? Is it true that New York floods its sewer system with toxic waste every 24 hours?
No, it's every 12 hours.
I just love this. The sewer technicians like, we got to get out of here because they flood the sewer system with toxic waste.
Yeah,
seems
it's absolutely true.
Okay.
Listen, if we didn't do that, New Jersey would be uninhabitable. You gotta flush it.
You gotta flush it out.
Yeah. Well, also, the problem is the giant mountain of the landfill that you saw in the earlier scene in the film. Okay, it's too high and it rains a lot and it just all comes down. They should have made it like a bowl.
Just runoff.
But no, and this is the runoff from there. It's a big city. There's a lot of people. It's easy to sit back and criticize how New York handles its toxic situation, but you're not there. Tough decisions have to be made. God, that was stupid.
Man.
But I bet a lot of people believe that, and You know what? Listen, I want to make Hollywood an offer right now. I've done this before. I will work at half price to write the script for the next Friday the 13th movie, which will be Jason Takes Manhattan, this time for real. And that's basically it and everything. But here's the thing. It opens, and this is going to be great. It opens on a cruise ship. It opens on a cruise ship. And the audience at this point, and this is the trick, you can only make this last as long as before you think they would burn the place down. So like a 5-minute thing where it looks like the whole movie's going to be on a cruise ship again. And then like people get up and they're looking at the view and they realize they are about to crash into New York City and then we switch to like the captain's thing. And it's a decapitated head. He's just like, there's just bodies all over the place and they plow into New York and there's carnage and explosions and like walking out of the Hindenburg, there's Jason. Boom, and then the rest of it takes place in New York. Haven't worked out all the details, but it involves a lot of people getting killed, okay? So I think I got a handle on this. But the important thing is 7 minutes of cruise footage and then 90 minutes of New York. The exact opposite of what we got.
Yes.
Now, are you still going to end up with him being like flooded with toxic waste and turning into baby Jason, child Jason again?
Well, I mean, after what happened to New York last week, doesn't that seem a lot more realistic?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true.
And it's funny because as stupid as that is, I didn't watch a ton of behind the scenes stuff for any of these movies, but I did see there's a random ass cut scene where you like see the like zombie Jason's mouth and like kid Jason is coming out of it.
Oh my god!
It makes no sense. I'll find it. I'll see if it's on YouTube. I'm sure it is. I'll link it.
That's amazing.
I have no idea how it would have fit into the narrative. Yeah, well, apparently audiences did not appreciate the bait and switch here. This was this cost, I think it was a record at the time, $5 million for these movies, and it only made $14 million at the box office. So, yeah, almost. And I think this was actually why Paramount sold the rights to Jason after this, because this movie did so poorly. Oh. So, yeah. I will say one final note. If you are, it sounds like we're all a fan of the premise of this movie much more than we are the actual film. If you like this premise, check out. There is a great comic book series by someone who basically said, "Hey, what if this movie was actually good?" It's called Maniac. It's called Maniac of New York, and it's about basically a Jason Voorhees character. Who is like, he stalks New York. They don't, there's backstory that they haven't explained yet, but it basically sounds like he was a Jason type character at a Crystal Lake type setting. And somehow he got to New York and now he's basically just stalks New York. Occasionally he shows up in places and just kills a bunch of people. They have like a whole maniac task force that's supposed to be hunting him down. It's a lot of fun. There's, the publisher, unfortunately, I think went bankrupt. So there are like 2 miniseries out, and there's one that started like a year ago, and I don't know if it'll ever finish. But yeah, Maniac in New York. Check it out. There are at least 2 2 graphic novels, 2 trade paperbacks you can get.
Hey, can I just mention one thing to give you a sense of the slim pickings on how of horror movies in the late 80s. The 80s was such a good decade for horror movies, but it ended poorly. This movie came out. They say it was faced some strong competition. And that's one of the reasons it didn't do too well, besides being a piece of shit. The strong competition was A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, and Fright Night Part 2, which is the only halfway decent one of the batch. We were suffering from useless sequels. And lack of imagination, and this was the kind of garbage we had to deal with.
It's interesting that Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street 5 came out at the same time. Friggin' Friday the 13th 8. I don't know. For some reason, the timing, it surprises me there was more Friday the 13th out by then.
Remember in the 80s they put out 8 installments. They had one almost every single year for Friday the 13th.
That's a good point. They did. And thank God they offered those recaps, because we might have forgotten what happened.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
What's the premise?
Oh God.
What's the motivation?
Yeah.
Like, this is not the evil bong. What are you guys doing?
All right. Well, I think that's actually a good place to leave it. Thus concludes our final episode of our Friday the 13th rankings. Oh, but wait. We actually obviously haven't gotten through. Oh, wait, I guess we're gonna have to do a new beginning episode because we.
Oh my god.
That's our.
I
that's
see what
our-
you did there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god, I'm committed to my bit. Okay. So we've covered our top pick and our bottom 5, but what about parts 7 through 2 or 7 through 2? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you understand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, if you come back here in 2 weeks, or my god,
goodness.
don't get angry.
There may only be 3 of us.
If you if you're coming back just in time for Halloween on Friday the 27th, we'll be releasing our next installment because I lied. This wasn't our final installment, much like the makers of the Friday the 13th films. Come on back. We'll be wrapping up, and obviously there are only 6 movies left, so you know which 6 are in the top 6. But which order will they be in? You'll have to tune in and find out. So, join us next time and have a wonderful night. That's all I got to say. Anyone else have anything to say?
Bye.
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 Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2, 3.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing up.
4. 5. 6.
Must be my imagination.
7.
Can I help you? Hello?
8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.